Welcome, everybody. We really appreciate you being here this evening and spending the day after the solstice with us. All right. And you guys are seeing my slides, not my notes, right? We're good. So thank you for joining us for tabling training this evening. This is going to be a mix of, presentation, but then also time for discussion. And if you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, feel free to unmute and ask, or you can pop in the chat and my lovely colleagues will let me know if there's something that we should chat about as a group. So the presentation will not take the full hour. I want to leave plenty of time to talk about things. So just quick introductions. So I'm Annie Wolf. I'm a director of membership and engagement. So I supervise our engagement program, and I'm sort of on a national focus and sort of direction of the department. But I have three of my colleagues joining us this evening. So if you guys want to take yourselves off of mute and introduce who you are and what you cover, everybody can get to know you. Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Trope. I am one of our engagement specialists, and I focus on our work in Arizona, Colorado, Texas, and Minnesota on engaging our members with both our advocacy work and also our solar co-ops. Great to see you all.
Hey, everybody. My name is Morgan Byrne. I am another engagement specialist with Solar United Neighbors. I support engagement efforts in Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I am an engagement contractor, and at the moment I am working to support the rest of the engagement team as well as a focus on Arizona.
Well, thank you all. So these are the faces that you'll see in our email inboxes most of the time, and reaching out to you to recruit you all for tabling events and for getting the word out about solar in your state and on a national scale. So, all right, we have done introductions. Next steps are Zoom logistics and meeting norms, even though we are all used to Zoom at this point after a year and a half of online meetings. Then a little bit of intro as to why we're meeting today, and some sun and solar basics. So we don't expect you to be experts. You are volunteering. You have differing levels of solar experience and experience with sun, but this should give you sort of an overview and also things to refer back to as you're going out in the world and telling people about sun. And then next steps and questions. And again, if you have questions throughout the time with us, feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat. So audio, if you want to mute or unmute yourself, click the little microphone icon at the bottom left of the control bar. If you're not speaking, we do ask that you keep mute on because the background noise can be super distracting. And then with video, feel free to turn your camera on or off using that stop or start icon. We do encourage you to keep your camera on just because it's great to see your smiling faces, but it's okay if you're not feeling that tonight. That's not a problem. All right, and then to chat, just make sure you're selecting the to everyone field. I think Zoom is now telling you where your message is going and how many people can see it, but just in case, select that everyone if you want everyone to be able to see it. Otherwise, you'd be able to select the host or any of the panelists in order to be able to send a message directly to us. And then if you're getting really annoyed with how your view is, you can choose your video layout at the upper right hand of your screen, and you can switch between the speaker view and also the gallery view. So just a couple of tips. If you have any issues, feel free to post in the chat and one of our team can help you out. And just a reminder on meeting norms, a couple of things. We always want to be respectful and courteous. We are coming at this from all different backgrounds and experiences and levels. So just keeping that in mind as well as others' feelings. And then we encourage you to step up and step back. We don't want you to be shy. We do want to hear from you. We do want you to ask questions and put it and, talk about your own experiences. But, it's always helpful to recognize when that's happening a lot and stepping back a little bit to let others have those words as well. All right. So let's get down to the meat of it. So why are we here? So studies have been shown, and we anecdotally know that it's true that people are more likely to go solar if they know more and also know someone who's already gone solar. So we are only as powerful as we are when we're united and working together, and tabling is an amazing opportunity to recruit more individuals to the solar movement to help spread the word about the power of solar in your community. You yourselves as volunteers and supporters of sun are super effective messengers. You're not only a member of your own community and talking with your neighbors about solar, it just is incredible and sort of elevates the message. It's really compelling. People are always skeptical of a message when it's your job to promote it. But if you're a volunteer, obviously doing this on your own time and because you believe in it or have experience with it, it really sends the message to someone that this is pretty great stuff and that it's something to pay attention to. So you guys are the reason why we're here, and we really appreciate you doing it today. And hopefully we can get the word out in your community about the benefits of solar. So, and then by the end of this session, we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable talking about solar to your neighbors if you don't already, and know the kinds of resources we have for people, not just when you're volunteering and tabling, but also for people who want to go solar, and then be ready to reach out locally and volunteer in your state. So Lisa, would you mind launching that poll just so we can get an idea of where everybody is? Is that working? The poll launched. I can't see it. So.
I can read it off if you'd like.
No, it's okay. I know. Yeah, if you want to read it off, that'd be great.
Okay. So how comfortable are you talking about solar is the poll. Hopefully it's showing up on your all's screen. The first is I'm a certified solar expert. We have 0% in that category. Pretty good. I know the basics. 77% of individuals on the call could learn more, 15%, and I'm a newbie, 8%.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good fit for what we're going to talk about today. And if any of our more experienced participants want to, raise their hand or unmute when we're talking about some of this stuff and lend your own experience, please feel free to do so. So thanks for participating and thanks for launching that, Lisa. All right. So what are the goals of tabling? We talked about it a little in terms of you all being the most effective messengers, but it's helping people get access to information about going solar. So you can, the ask might be to sign up for more information and be added to our email list so they're getting updates and notifications about co-ops when they're in the area. Could be to actually join a solar co-op if you're in one of the states where we've got those running pretty actively. Potentially downloading a resource guide or even getting answers to questions. So there's sort of the overarching is help people get access to information about going solar. The other option might also be to encourage people to take an advocacy action. So we advocate for solar friendly policies across the nation, especially in the states that we operate in, but definitely in other states as well. And so that may be a really great opportunity to get support for a solar friendly policy in your area. So what is actually in this tabling kit? What are we talking about? So we have a downloadable PDF of all of the things that are listed on this slide, and it's something that you are able to print out yourself, or it's something we can print out and send to you. But what's included is some tabling tips and tricks, basically a lot of the information that we're going to go over just in a more expanded form, a sign up sheet so people can sign up to get text messages, email alerts, etc., and be notified of opportunities in their area and solar opportunities in their area, frequently asked questions about solar, a flyer about how we help people go solar and how solar works, both a graphic and then photos of installations and an inverter, a sun sign. So, hey, this is who we are. And also an ask me about solar sign. So these are all paper items. They're 8.5 by 11, it's a whole packet. And that's something that's pretty, if you have that, you're ready to go. But there are some extras. There we go. So what's not in the tabling kit that you could just download this evening and be ready to go? Flyers advertising solar co-ops. So if you're in one of our states or in an area where we've got an active co-op, that's an ad. So in that, because that's not always that's not stagnant. So that's something that we need to add in if you're going out and talking to people. And then advocacy action. So that changes all the time as well. So those are sort of things that are more current, and we need to know that you're going to be tabling or working at an event in order to be able to send you those relevant items. And then non-paper things. So sign stand, clipboard, solar panel, tablecloth, etc., sort of things to make the table look pretty, aren't in the standard tabling kit. That's stuff that we need to know about ahead of time, as well as swag. So pens and stickers and sort of the extras that people can take from your table. So those are things that if you just email us at getinvolved@solarunitedneighbors.org, we can send all that stuff to you, and that stuff just needs to be sent back to us so we can reuse it and recycle it. But so that's, and you'll get a link to the tabling kit so you can see sort of what that is and what's in there as well. And just for reference, some of this, if you're taking the initiative and going out and finding events to do tabling at, or popping up a table at your farmer's market or what have you, that's, we'll be chatting a lot, or the engagement specialist and you will be chatting a lot about what needs to be there. If you are answering a recruitment email, so, your state director, engagement specialist is looking for somebody to table or staff an event at, the Indianapolis farmers market, then we will know what you need and we'll provide it for you. So there's a couple of levels of that there. All right. So what to expect. So there are a couple of tips that we think are a great thing to think about when you are going out there and talking to people about solar. So you want to make sure that you're speaking slowly and clearly and making eye contact with people and smiling. It's helpful to try to get people to stop, but you don't need to be overly aggressive. And a pro tip, courtesy of Lisa, definitely best to ask questions as people walk by. So focusing on sort of those single people or couples that are walking by rather than groups. And usually that person has sort of made some eye contact with you and indicating that they're interested in stopping at the table. You can also start the conversation with a, hey, how are you? Or do you have a minute to talk about solar? And that usually gets people to stop and answer. When you're having that conversation, it's helpful to start right off the bat with the fact that you're a volunteer and that Sun is a nonprofit, and that we help people join together, go solar, join together and fight for our energy rights. There might be, there's a couple of different goals, right? If we've got a co-op in the area, it's chatting with them about a co-op and what that means. If we don't, sort of explaining the solar process and how we might be able to help people go solar if they're interested, or getting them to understand and sign up for an advocacy action. So, say we're protecting net metering in Florida. And so, signing on to that. And we've got various ways to do that. We've got those paper sign-in sheets. And then for our advocacy actions and signing up for co-op waitlists and things like that, we actually have a QR code that people can scan with their phone and do it right there. So it's a little bit easier and you don't have to deal with paper sign-up sheets. And let them guide the conversation in some ways. Like you have an ask, you have something you want them to do, but people may just want to know about solar and have absolutely no idea, what it's all about. And you spend the majority of your time talking about that, and that's okay. Everything about getting the word out and elevating solar is really, really important. And then finishing, before they leave, try to make sure you get their contact info if they're interested in signing up for just basically the email list so they get updates and get to learn more. That's a win for sure. Ooh, my chat window is over there. All right. So things to keep in mind. You do not have to be an expert. That's not your job. We're not expecting you to be an expert. You can always take down someone's contact info and get back to them, or send it to us so we can get back to them with the answer to their question. You can direct them to the Solar United Neighbors website, and you can even send them to our help desk, and that's okay. You are a passionate citizen. You are a volunteer on our behalf, and your job is to share the knowledge and passion that you have for solar and your experience with solar, not to know all the answers. Always keeping in mind that, be respectful. People are coming from all different experiences with solar and have, from absolutely not knowing what's going on to having a really passionate opinion about it. So being respectful, and then also realizing you don't need to take it personally. If people don't want to stop, if people don't agree with what we've got to say out there, that's okay. It's not you, it's definitely them. All right. Awesome. So I do want to take a minute to spend some time talking about difficult conversations. So we've got some bullet points here, and then I'll stop sharing and we can talk as a group. So like I said, people are coming to you from all different backgrounds, experiences, relationships with solar, and solar can be a polarizing issue. So it's just something to have in the back of your mind. It doesn't happen all that often, but sometimes you might find yourself in a difficult conversation. And somebody has a really strong opinion about solar, or their experience with it hasn't been positive, and that's okay. People generally just want to be heard, and you don't need to engage or get defensive. Saying I hear you or understand where you're coming from is totally an acceptable response, and a smile and moving along. And again, it's not you. Don't take it personally. It's solar in many ways. It is a polarizing issue as much as we don't want it to be. And it's always helpful to take a break after a tough conversation. And then when you jump back in, your next positive conversation will definitely give you a boost. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, but I'd love to hear from you all. You can unmute yourselves if you want to pop it in the chat, that's fine. But what are some ways that have worked for you to approach a tough conversation, and what's worked for you? So anybody have anything they want to share?
I can
Hi,
share.
this is-
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, this is Joel from West Palm. A few months ago, my neighbor, I guess he's been living here for about a year with his wife. They bought the house next to us, and they have the same model that we have. And you cannot see our solar panels from the street. It's just obscured by some trees, and it's not possible. He's the only one who could actually see it from the side of his house. So he asked me about it a few months ago, and I talked about it a little bit with him, and I referred him to Sun, and then I found out there was a co-op, and I told him about that also here in Palm Beach County. How do I know if he joined the co-op, or do I need to know?
That's a great question. We can, if you let us know who it is, we can check, and see whether or not they have joined the co-op. And that's basically all we can do. We're not, we can't do any personal outreach to somebody who hasn't given their information to us, but we're happy to check. And similarly, if you are tabling and you had a really great, conversation with somebody, we can see if somebody's joined the co-op. So that's perfectly fine. That's awesome. See, Joel, that's exactly the example. If people know more about solar or know someone who has gone solar, they're more likely to ask about it and definitely more likely to go solar for sure. Any other input on handling difficult conversations? Has anyone had one about solar? Anybody, a neighbor who hasn't been so friendly about their solar panels?
Well, this is Cliff. When we were looking to install solar, we're in an HOA, and so we knew what the law was, but we wanted to give them, not blindsided them. So we tried to ask them indirectly, and the president of HOA didn't want to talk about it, to say no. So finally, when the co-op came and we got the quote, decided to go with it, I called the person in the architectural committee and said, we're gonna install the solar panels. Do you want to, see what the plan looks like and stuff? And she said, well, we have no say in it because the state law says, you guys could put it wherever you want. So we went with a 11.7 kilowatt system, and we have in the east, south, and west side, and the south side happens to be the front of the house, which also has the most panels. And my wife tells me that there would be people who just stop and look. We had one guy who would walk his dog and would just stare at it for a couple of minutes every day. He eventually moved out of this community, but he installed it in the one he moved into and sent me a picture of his. So I would say just the fact that we installed it. I know another neighbor, they installed even larger system than us. And one, he asked me about it. He still installed that in a pool hot water heater. So I guess, although we only talked to, we talked to two people, but so two of them went for panels, and one of them, of course, we were the first one in the neighborhood did it, inspired them to get it. And every now and then, when there's a storm, they ask us, do you have power? I say no, because, the panels don't supply the house. They got to go to the grid first, unless you get a battery.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, trendsetter, Cliff, if you're the only one, if you're the first one in your neighborhood, for sure. So that's awesome. And I I just lost everybody. So hold on. There we go. You're back. Well, and I mean, that's also a good example. Like there are so many misconceptions about solar and just education that needs to be done out there that just having a presence and talking about it, whether it is to your neighbors and the person who stops with their dog to look at your solar panels, or, by putting the name Solar United Neighbors in front of something and people are just intrigued because people don't know a lot about it. So it's definitely helpful to have you out there and chatting. All right, so we'll get back to, and I apologize because things, all right, let me just, all your faces are right in the way. There we go. All right, awesome. So, these slides are going to be familiar to anyone who's gone solar with us or attended one of our info sessions, but they're important to have in the back of your head. There's a lot of information in the upcoming slides, and you do not need to have it all memorized. You do not need to know it all. These are slides that you're going to get for reference. There's information about this in the tabling kit, but this is a smattering of frequently asked questions, things people are interested in, and sort of things anecdotally and from experience that we find people asking most often. So like I said, you're going to get the reference, you're going to get these slides so you can take a look at them and read through them at your leisure, as well as the tabling kit. And then we have plenty of resources that we can provide too. And these are not, it's not an expansive view of solar by any means. We've got like the really nitty gritty solar slides at the very end of this, so you can read through them on your own, but I didn't want to take the time to do that today because most people aren't going to get like really into the weeds on this, but some of you might be super interested in it. So the basics of SUN. So Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit. We're unaffiliated with any company or product, and we rely entirely upon community engagement and involvement and volunteers like you all. We are a national organization with field staff in 12 different states, and we're a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone. So we help people go solar, join together, and fight for our energy rights. Some people are going to ask, like, what's the proof in the pudding there? So we have organized 180 solar co-ops since our founding in 2007, and we've actually helped over 3,600 homes and businesses go solar through our co-ops, and then educated tens of thousands of people about solar. These are all stats that are in the notes on this slide, so you'll be able to refer back to those if you're interested. So before we get any further, I do want to take a moment to address the inequities in our current energy system. This is a cornerstone of our work here at SUN because we do believe that a fair and just energy system includes everyone. And communities of color, particularly the Black community, bear an unfair share of the cost of energy production, but receive fewer benefits. So families of color are disproportionately harmed by higher utility bills and shutoffs. And on top of that, housing discrimination is a barrier to home ownership and thus solar ownership. So this may not be something that ever comes up when you're talking about solar with your community, but just in case, we want you to have this resource and the information and SUN's stance so you can answer those questions. We started with a group of economically and racially diverse neighbors, and we focused on solar because it helps people pay their electric bills. It also helped them stay in their homes at a time when DC specifically was being gentrified really quickly and the whole country was in the middle of a financial crisis. So rooftop solar, and this applies to everybody, not just communities of color, but rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. So that's really our main push for solar, is that it brings control back to us and creates a lot of positive economic benefits. And we're working towards a new energy system that everyone can participate in, and one that's fair and equitable. So if you haven't heard this story already, this is how we got started. We started in 2007 when Anya Schulman's, our CEO's son, wanted to go solar, and she waded into this and realized how difficult it was. There were only 2 companies working in DC at the time, and they told them completely different things about how to install solar on their roof. Then there were cost issues, equipment issues, taxes, regulations, everybody had different information. So she decided to form Solar United Neighbors as a consumer protection organization and as a way to help people go solar and find the resources that they need in order to go solar more easily. It's not easy, but we try to make it as easy as possible through our process. So Solar 101, this is what people get into, is the basics of solar, because they maybe haven't heard about it, or they've heard about it and haven't really dug into anything. So again, there's a lot of info on these slides, and we do not expect you to be experts, although some of you with solar systems already are experts, and more so than me. And you'll get these slides and notes so you can read through everything. Anything that is included in the tabling kit is marked that way, and at the very end of the PowerPoint, there's additional resource slides that you can go through on your own. So you'll see sort of an FAQ FAQ little tag or a tabling kit resource tag for things that are actually in the tabling kit and things that people will be asking you about. But some of this other stuff is really good background to have. So if this is new to you, solar photovoltaic is what we're talking about. So PV, if you see PV cells, solar, PV, interchangeable for the most part. So PV technology converts light energy into usable electricity, and most of today's solar market is PV technology, and that's really what we're focused on. Although you'll hear people, who are installing solar thermal, et cetera, and water heaters for their pools and their homes and things like that. But typically, we're focused on solar panels that are on your roof. So this is a tabling kit resource. This graphic is in the tabling kit and super helpful to sort of explain how this all works. And most people going solar have a system that's set up like this. So the solar panels, number one, mounted on the roof, head to your solar inverter and hooked into your electrical panel, powering your home, and then heading through your utility meter and on the grid. So this is a really just helpful graphic for people to sort of visualize what's happening. And you are, if you're not using all the power you're producing, the excess goes out to your utility meter, and you're hopefully getting used by your neighbors and a rebate back on your utility bill every single month. But so this is a tabling kit resource that we have. Just a couple of important terms, kilowatts and kilowatt hours. So kilowatts are a unit of power used to describe the size of the system, and kilowatt hours are the unit of energy. So that's what you're seeing on your electric bill. This is also used to describe the amount of the electricity that the system will produce. So just some background terms to have in your brain. This is a question that we get asked a lot, is, just sort of out of the blue, even if we're not talking about it, what's a good roof for solar? So this is not only a frequently asked question, it is a tabling kit resource. So this is something that you can show people. Roof orientation, shade, enough space to mount panels, and then also the age of the roof are really important. And there's a lot more information about each of those points in the notes on this slide, which you'll get and be able to take a look at and dive in. But basically, most ideal direction for a solar roof is to face true south, although other directions don't disqualify you. It just sort of depends on where you are. Little or no shading. You want to make sure that 80% of the solar, that 80% of the solar happens between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. So we want to make sure that roofs are pretty much clear during that time. Enough space. If you've got a lot of crazy things happening on your roof and vents and dormers and all sorts of things, or a teeny tiny little roof, not a great option. And then age of the roof and condition. So people sort of that 10 years or under, if you've got less than 10 years left on your roof, people are encouraged to replace their roof. Over 10 years, you're probably good to go. So those are just general guidelines that people ask about when they've not really heard about solar or sort of thinking about going solar and don't know the answer to. This next slide, so each of these pictures are actual 8.5 by 11 pictures that come in the tabling kit. So if people are just have no idea what things look like, you can show them these. So what a ground mount looks like, so having things in your yard, versus what the tabling kit resources, what the solar panels look like on a flat roof, tile roof, composite shingle roof. So the most common types of installations, we have pictures of those so you can show people and they can get an idea of what that actually looks like, because there are some people who just have never seen a solar panel or a mount before. So super helpful. We also have a picture in there of the solar system inverter, because that's another thing that people just haven't had exposure to, and also how it works. So, bringing the wires in from the modules on the roof, the disconnect switches, how it's connecting to the internet so you can track your use, and then how it goes into the grid. So another resource that we have in the tabling kit for people for you to show people. And another frequently asked question we get is, whether or not you need to upgrade the electrical in your home before you go solar, and most don't. That's again a note that we have in these slides, so you can read a little bit more into that. But most of the time, it doesn't need to happen. And this, of course, was the question that Cliff was asked, and this is also a really common question: is what happens when the power goes out? And exactly, your solar's not, your solar's working, but it's not working because you aren't, we have to keep the grid safe and make sure that the electricity, the workers are safe as well. And so everything shuts down. And then, more and more people are interested in and asking questions about batteries. And so that's just something to be prepared for, is that's the answer to that question. If you want power when the power is out, battery storage is the way to go. And one thing to note too, people, I think it's a common well, it's true that batteries are super expensive, but the costs are continuing to go down. So that's another thing to make a note of if people ask those questions. Is like, yes, it can be cost prohibitive right now, but we are seeing the trend similar to solar. It is going down and going down. So hopefully that's something that's more accessible in the future. All right. People ask a lot about net metering, which is unsurprising because it is a hot button issue in a lot of states and nationally. So, preface this, I mean, you all are going to know more about net metering if you have solar and what's going on in your state. You're going to know more about it than certainly I am, or most of the people who you're talking to. But the basics are it allows flow of electricity to and from the customer. And when you generate more use, it flows back through the meter and you receive credit on your power bill. The rates, how it works with different power suppliers and what's going on in your local area is something that we can help you find out. But every single place is completely different. But so this is the general. I think people are, especially if they're new to solar, they're not diving into the nitty gritty details. But knowing, especially if whether or not net metering is actually a thing wherever you are, is really important before you go out and start talking to people about solar, because that is one of the main drivers for people to go solar is that credit back on your utility bill. All right. And then how Solar United Neighbors helps people go solar. So how do you know if there's a co-op to even table for? If you are responding to a recruitment email, if a state director or an engagement specialist has sent out a message saying, hey, we've got something happening at X event and we'd love people to staff this table, then we'll let you know. You'll have flyers that talk about a local co-op, and that'll be the instructions is to help people sign up for the co-op, or at least get them signed up so they can learn more about it. And if you're finding places to table on your own, just ask us what's going on in your area. You can send us an email and get involved, and we will let you know if there's a co-op or a way to have people sign up for the wait list if we know there's going to be a co-op in your area in a little bit. Just as a side note, if somebody signs up for the Solar United Neighbors email list and they haven't gone solar, they will get notifications if there's a co-op happening in their area. So that's a great way if people are interested in going solar. And then what is a solar co-op? So some of you have gone solar through the co-op and can explain the process in much more detail as people ask. And if you've been to an info session, there are more slides to this deck. And those are at the end of this PowerPoint presentation. So again, you can dive in and really dig into it a little bit later, but we wanted to just have the broad overview today. So it's a group of solar homeowners all going solar together to get a discount and help in the process. So it provides best value on installation because we're bringing people together in a group buy. Installers are able to offer a lower rate than they would, one-off customers. You're getting support throughout the entire process from Solar United Neighbors and your fellow homeowners. And it's all about collaboration and working together. We don't select the installers who help you to install your solar. The co-op members select the installer. So really iterating and stressing the fact that it's a homeowner-driven process and a community-driven process is really important. And we also rely on co-op members and volunteers to spread the word and tell their friends about the group. And the more people that sign up initially, the better deal we get. And the bonus is that you not only meet fellow homeowners and community members, but you become a growing part of the solar movement. This is another so this is the opposite end. If we don't have a co-op in your area, or we don't have one yet, or people are just interested in going solar outside of a co-op, this is something that you can hand out. We have a flyer on how to go solar on your own. All of our help desk programs are free of charge. The initial ones, setting up a 15-minute appointment with one of our Go Solar help desk experts, asking these questions, emailing the help desk, that's all free of charge. And we want to, help people along that process. If you need more and more help and you want us to do, significant and extensive proposal reviews and things like that, that ends up having a cost associated with it for some of the higher time commitments. But this is a flyer that you can hand out if people are just interested in going solar and getting that non-biased, the unbiased opinion about different proposals and answers to their questions, etc. One of the other pieces that we get asked about a lot is solar economics. How can I afford solar? How much is my system going to cost, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a tabling kit resource and also a frequently asked question. prefacing this with, this is not what it's going to necessarily look like in your state. This gives you a really good idea of it. But the bottom line here is to stress the message that solar is increasingly affordable. Since 2014, the costs have fallen about 23%. The income tax credit got extended. It's getting more and more affordable to go solar, but this gives people a ballpark idea of what the solar systems might cost. Because I think especially when people haven't really explored it, they want to know sort of the bottom line, and this is a good way to give them that idea. So this is a flyer in the tabling kit, and then we also have some more solar financing information that's at the end of this presentation if you want to dig in more. And we have plenty of resources on the website too. So if people are sort of at that stage where they're interested in going solar and they want to look more into how to finance it, but that's information that we have on the website as well. And then there's also state programs and state rebates and things like that may be applicable in your state, and we can help you find that information in addition to something like the federal income tax credit. The last piece that you might be involved with tabling is advocacy. So we always have something going on. The website is sort of the first stop to see if there's something going on in your state, where we do have it broken down by all 12 of our field programs as well as nationally. So that solarunitedneighbors.org/take action is a great place to go. But it's also important to reach out before your event, unless, if you're going out and you're finding things to do on your own, that's fantastic. So just let us know that that's happening, and we can point you to any advocacy actions that would be relevant in your area. And excuse me, but if you're responding to a recruitment email, so again, state director or engagement specialist reaches out and says that we've got a table, an event that we need volunteers for, we'll have those resources available to you. So we have something that we're going to be asking you to do. So we'll have those resources ready to go for you. And just solar advocacy is one of the main things that Sun does. We help people go solar, and we advocate for solar friendly policies, and it's changing laws and around the country, locally and also on a national scale. And legislators and regulators need to hear from solar owners and supporters in order to keep solar at the forefront, make it more at the forefront than it already is, and change things for the better in terms of getting people, making sure that people can go solar. So, if you're interacting with solar homeowners, encouraging them to share their solar story, whether that's on our website or just by talking to their local representatives all the way up to the federal level. Just hearing from solar homeowners and solar supporters means that it's sort of a volume game. The more people reach out, the more it's in front of our elected officials, and the more likely we are to get solar friendly policies and programs passed. So your voice and your work and your volunteerism in this area makes a huge difference in making that impact. So thank you. All right. So next steps, find an event to table at. Oop, there we are. So let us know when you find opportunities. We will definitely be reaching out. I know of things that we've got going on in Pennsylvania that we'll be recruiting for soon. I've got something in Maryland that I need to recruit for soon. So we've got things that are happening, and state directors, they know to reach out. So we'll be reaching out to you for sure to help us out with events that we have going on. But we welcome you to look for events in your community to talk about sun and going solar. So when you find an opportunity, you just need to reach out to us, and we can get you all the materials that you need to do that. But we encourage you to, whether it's a farmer's market or a craft fair or a local whatever, something that you think would be a friendly audience would be a great opportunity to get the word out, and also practice talking about solar and talking about sun. So you'll work closely too with our state directors and all of us engagement specialists when we send out recruitment emails, and also if you have any questions. So working with us to get the word out, and we can also help you with resources to find local events. There's a lot of Nextdoor postings and local events calendars and things like that. And if you need advice of where to start or sort of overwhelmed, we're happy to walk you through that and start that process with you. We will be scheduling some practice sessions. So we've had this training, and then we also had a mini solar info session training a couple of months ago. So we're going to have some open office hours for people to practice their sort of elevator pitch on solar, whether that's, why you're interested in it, why you support solar, practicing some of these questions, things like that, or, asking any questions that you have. We're going to be scheduling some time. And so those will go out so you can drop in and, just chat and ask any questions and practice some things and network with our other volunteers who are going out in the community and talking about solar and sun. And then we'll also be sending out the recording and the slides from the presentation this evening. So you'll have all of this to refer back to. You'll also get the tabling kit itself, so the PDF version of the tabling kit, so you can really dive into that and see what's available. And if there's anything that you would find helpful that's not in there, then we can work on getting that in there. And so you'll have all the resources that you need to sort of start exploring and putting feelers out as to where might be a good opportunity, or to be ready when one of our state programs calls and has an event for you to get out and talk to the community about. So I did want to I wanted to see if anybody had any ideas coming into here as to what organizations or who you might reach out to in order to start that process. So I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to let me share. It's going to put our whiteboard up. Let's see if this works. This is a new feature. So we should all be able to see the whiteboard. And I think you should all be able to write on it too. That's the test. So you can, this is a fun feature. This is the first time I think we're trying it out. So if you can unmute yourself and chat about it, or you can put on the whiteboard what are some ideas of how you'd reach out to people, what events you might look at tabling at, and going from there. Ooh, Sarah, you're going with the drawing. I'm impressed. And I'll also open it at this point if you all have any questions, want to chat about something, have an experience to share, feel free to unmute yourself, and we've got plenty of time. So
Yeah, I just want to flag here. I'm not sure if everyone has access to the whiteboard or is able to write on it.
Share on here. Well then, chat and hidden behind the main window. Interesting, Joel.
Well, so if you go to the top, it should say view options, and then in that scroll down bar, it'll say annotate. And when you go to annotate, there'll be like a little toolkit where you can send text or draw or stamp or emoji.
Thank you, Sarah. Definitely emoji.
I have a few questions. One of the fears I have is, the question of, all right, what are you trying to sell, right? It was, you said you're non-for-profit or whatever, but, you can go solar with us or we can help you and whatever, right? So are you getting any kickbacks from anything? The question I'm going to be able to answer is, how is Sun funded so that I can express to them that there's nothing going on behind the scenes here, right?
That's a really great question. And one that we're going to be adding to this presentation. So we do get a sign up fee from installers. So for every person who signs up for the co-op, we do get a $600 fee, which is basically a referral fee. That's not our main source of funding. That's a good chunk of it, but that's not our main source of funding. And overall, we'll have 250 people sign up for a co-op and 70 actually go solar, and that's okay. That's not where we of course want more people to go solar, but that's not the end of the world if we've got the 50% return rate on a co-op. The other places that we do have a lot of grant funding, and we do have a lot of personal donations. So we don't take any federal funding unless it's like a grant or something like that. We don't, we aren't a federally funded program by any means. So, and that's okay to tell people is that we do, we do get that money from the installer, but we aren't we're not going to push you to go solar if it's not the right fit for you. And people who join the co-op is free to join. You can learn all you want to. You can talk to the installer. You can get a roof review, all of that stuff. There is no obligation to join to actually go solar. But it's, we're happy to be upfront about the fact that when you do, if you do go solar, we do get funding from that as well. So.
Okay, thanks.
People are having fun with this. I love it. But that is a really, really good question. But yeah, a lot of it, most of our funding comes from individual donations and grants as opposed to the co-op program, even though that is a big chunk.
Annie, do you mind if I add to that as well?
Please do.
Something that I really love to point out as well is that a very large chunk of the money spent by a number of installers is actually to recruit the people or find the people to go solar. And so we're kind of that organization that helps connect installers more easily with folks in the community. And so that installer fee is actually very minimal in comparison to often the percentage spent on just like recruiting folks, which I think is kind of interesting. I think, Annie, I don't know if you know what the percentage is, but I think it's upwards of like 50 to 60% at times of installers' budgets can just be going to find the folks who want to go solar. So we kind of create that connection for them, which is nice. And then for folks who want to go solar, having kind of a neutral nonprofit that can answer the questions and kind of go through all those details without having to work directly necessarily with the installer and have that kind of in between neutral space. So
that's a great point. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage. Dan, I don't know if that's a number that you've heard. Dan is with our Indiana program.
I've heard the numbers that high, but it's been for soft costs, which would include more than just the acquisition of customers for like fees and filings and all that, connection costs and that kind of thing. But certainly acquisition costs, like Lisa was talking about, is a huge piece of that. And certainly $600 is a lot less than the standard fee for that for the industry.
Cool. I'm hoping to be able to deflect. I'm a volunteer. That should hopefully.
Right, exactly. That's always fine. You can always blame us. That is for sure.
Got all this other information. You can go look at their fundings, you know, where it's coming from. But ultimately, I'm here as a volunteer. I'm giving up my Saturday morning at the farmers market to come talk to you because I feel strongly about it. So
Always a great
I
answer.
think, yeah, I was going to say, always just going back to your own passion around it and that you're volunteering your time because you care about it is the best way to go. And then direct them to us and we'll figure it out especially if they're being extra ordinary, but hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not too extra feisty. I love our whiteboard, but I am going to stop sharing because it's also blinding me. So let's see. All right. Oh, and Monty just asked a question about where our grants come from and if there's any federal. We do sometimes get federal grants, or a portion that if it's a federal funding opportunity that's then gone through another nonprofit. There's all sorts of funky ways that federal government puts out grants. So some of the grants are funded, but we don't have like a consistent funding source from federal grants. We do have some larger foundations, some of which ask to be anonymous. So that's I honestly don't have a list off the top of my head anyway. And we also do a lot of small grants as well. So I mean, there's things from like an organization called the Climate Advocacy Lab that it's like $20,000 grants to do some testing and some work and to try things out and get our message out there. And then there's some larger grants that we get as well. And then the individual donations. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, my cat's attacking my computer. But so they really come from all over. We'll do local grants for local programming and then national level grants for some of our bigger programming as well.
just a thought I had. I haven't gone through all of the resources, your help desk and calling in and getting some help and things. I think that's probably a great thing that I'm going to do to get an idea of what actually happens, what your services are, so that I can, reiterate that to them to say, hey, I actually did this, and tried all these things and I got all this great information, and help me do this and that. So I think that's probably a good idea to actually do all those things so I can express them
from experience. Yeah, that's a great idea, Ben. Yeah, right now we've got, you can obviously email the help desk. We also have an appointment, way to book a 15-minute appointment with one of our help desk experts, which has been super popular. We launched it back in late March, early April or so, and it's been incredibly popular. And in addition to like free roof reviews, because that's something that our team does all the time. So if you just want to know if your roof is a good candidate for solar, you can get that from us. You don't need to go through an installer or some of that convoluted process and sign up for an email or what have you. You can get a roof review and know whether or not you can go solar pretty easily. So it's a great idea. There's fall. Yeah, I love it. Testing out the offerings. So, and any feedback that you have while you do something like that, please let us know, because we're always trying to improve. A lot of this stuff is, especially with the help desk, just for context, is like the help desk has always been open, and we'll always answer questions from people. And if they email and have questions about going solar, it doesn't matter if you're in a co-op or not, we'll answer your question. But we had put some of the services under membership, sort of like proposal reviews and some of these more time consuming offerings. And we've actually moved that out of our membership program. So there's co-op membership, and then there's sort of like membership. I want to join Solar United Neighbors because I support what you're doing membership. And some of those services were under there. We moved them out, and they're now all completely free, and sort of the methodology for how we get those. So like the chats, the emails, the calendar appointments, things like that are relatively new. So any feedback that you either experience or hear from others who are using those services is super helpful, because we're always trying to improve it and just expand access to those for people who are interested. So. Awesome.
Beginning of the presentation, somebody mentioned about social, it was on the whiteboard, social media. So at what point are we allowed to say, yes, we're a volunteer, we represent Solar United Neighbors? Do we have, what is the official, indoctrination or ceremony that we can become a volunteer, or officially, say, hey, I represent them, and I want to go post on Twitter or LinkedIn or do something like that? Is that something that's allowed, and what's that requirement?
That's a great question. So, I mean, you are a Solar United Neighbors volunteer. So that, you have attended a session, you're going out in the community and talking. So congratulations all. I've definitely seen some familiar faces as well. So yeah, so you are a Solar United Neighbors volunteer. It is, going out and resharing and reposting the stuff that we're putting out there is super, super helpful on your own behalf. Similar to talking about your experiences and saying you're a volunteer is, putting that stuff on your own pages and sharing it to your own followers is super helpful, because it gains us exposure and, similarly puts an underpinning of like, I believe in this, I'm sharing it. We also encourage you, if you're not, where are you based, Ben? What state are you in?
Indiana.
Indiana. Okay. So yeah, definitely, if you haven't yet, join the Indiana Facebook group as well as the listserv. And those are really great places to also, share your opinion and sort of serve that capacity to answer questions and put things out there as a Solar United Neighbors volunteer. Because there's plenty of people who are in those groups who don't have as much experience with us. And so it's super helpful to have people who know us a little bit better and understand how we work to answer those questions. So it's not just Sun constantly responding, our lovely social media manager Crystal responding constantly to those questions and having it always be Sun. So that's super helpful. Yeah, I mean, and then I would say, like if you are doing an event, saying I'm volunteering and at X, Y, and Z, and hope to see you there, I'm volunteering on behalf of Sun, like that stuff is totally fine. So, but all opinions are your own. Sure. Yeah, and Indiana has a pretty active listserv and Facebook group. The Facebook group it's really.
I just want to, as somebody who's working in Indiana for Sun, I just want to say hi to Ben. Hello, Ben. You and I have traded email messages, and I'm hoping we can talk soon on the phone sometime. Glad to see you here tonight.
So we've got 7 minutes. I can give you those 7 minutes back, or if anybody has anything else they'd like to contribute or questions that they'd like to ask, you're more than welcome to do so. But having an extra 7 minutes during these long summer days is always good. And as a reminder, we will send the recording of this presentation. We'll send the slides so you can see all the notes and also all the extra reference slides. And then the tabling kit in the follow-up email. I believe it's going out tomorrow, maybe the day after, but in the next couple of days. So you can take a look at that and then keep an eye out. Certainly, because you all have attended this, you'll be getting emails from state directors and engagement specialists recruiting you for events that are happening around your state. And then again, feel free to start doing some of that yourself as well and taking a look at what's going on in your area and letting us know when that happens so we can get you the resources that you need. So, and the link and contact information for help desk, it is help desk.
Hi, this is Joel.
Yeah.
I've been attending some of the other sessions about electric cars and expanding usage in homes and whatnot. And so I was thinking that if I get an electric car, which we're looking at, and I also attended a session that said some electric cars can be attached to your home and provide power. And that's very good information to know, especially something that's good in Florida.
Yeah.
Because we have lost electricity. But I might need to add some panels to my roof to power my vehicle. Is that something that has been done within Solar United Neighbors, or do I just go back to the initial vendor that put in my panels? And you know, what would be the answer for that?
That's a really good question, and one that a lot of people have. So that is, so we do always recommend going back to the original installer as your first stop because of warranties, and we don't want anything to be voided that way. So that's always your first stop. We're also helpful. We're also happy to sort of help guide you along that process, but we have had co-op members who didn't go solar with the same installer add-on panel. So it does happen, but our first stop, we always recommend that you go back to the original installer as your first stop. And then, we're happy to help if, depending on the answer that you might get from them.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very good information. Because the initial cost of putting in batteries, my installer said that 90% of people didn't put in batteries. And it was very expensive to put in batteries.
Yeah.
And what I've been hearing from other people's on other Zoom sessions is that a car can provide much more electricity than batteries, and you actually can drive it around too.
Even better. Well, yeah, and that's like, we do have people who join an additional co-op to add batteries, for sure. That happens all the time. And similarly with EV chargers, we have co-ops that our solar panels or chargers, or sorry, solar panels and batteries, and also EV chargers to support that. And I'm trying to open up our Slack. I turned off our Slack while I was doing this, but we actually had a question. Joel, were you on the electrification webinar last night? Because there was a similar question and I'm trying to find the answer. Because somebody asked it. And now I can't remember where it is. Because that's a common question, and it's an interesting proposal it's just an interesting concept. So I can also follow up. I'm following up with you anyway about your neighbor, so I can try to find that answer for you and send that along.
Okay, thanks, Ann.
Yeah, thank you all. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate you spending your time. We're really excited for you to get out there in the community and talk about sun and talk about solar. And we're here for absolutely anything that you need, any resources, any improvements, any feedback. We're here to help support you to do this work. And we really very much appreciate you spending time with us and being solar supporters and supporters of sun. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of your evening.